Okay, hi everyone, Daryl here. Today I'm just going to talk about stamp duties. This is actually lesson 23 in my YouTube series Investing 101. Okay, so what are stamp duties? A lot of us are familiar with stamp duties when we purchase properties, but stamp duties in essence are actually taxes levied on documents. So if, let's say, for example, I sell shares of my company to another individual, I have to get the document stamped. So I got to stamp the document saying that I've transferred this amount of shares to this other individual. Yeah, so but if let's say like for example the company allots shares, so like the company was incorporated and then the company started with maybe $1,000 worth of paid up capital, and each share is actually $1. So this 1,000 shares are actually initially allotted to the shareholders, and actually there's no stamp duties paid because the allotment is not a transfer. So transfer of shares, right, are or sale and purchase of shares are stamp duties have to actually be paid, okay, but not allotment like new shares are created and the company allots the shares. Okay, so stamp duties are very important, and they are normally taxes levied on the sale and purchase of property documents, sale and purchase of shares of a company, or also right when you are renting a property stamp duties are also payable. And thus therefore right as a buyer or seller of a property, you have to pay stamp duties, and also when you rent property. So in Singapore, if you're a tenant, the tenant tends to be the one who pays the stamp duties on the tenancy agreement. And in Singapore, when you are buying a property, if let's say you're buying a residential property, you have to take note of the normal buyer stamp duty as well as the additional buyer stamp duty that the government will levy on you, depending on the number of properties that you have. So like for Singaporeans, if you are buying your first property, then you don't have additional buyer stamp duty. But when you buy your second and third property, you have additional buyer stamp duty. And let's say like for foreigners, if you're buying property in Singapore, your stamp duty is normal buyer stamp duty is payable, as well as additional buyer stamp duty. So additional buyer stamp duty is very high in Singapore, so it's about is 25%. So these stamp duties are actually payable when you buy a property in Singapore. So the government actually uses stamp duties to control the buying and selling of properties in Singapore, and to use it as a tool to control property prices. Yeah, but other than that, stamp duties have to be paid. They are actually taxes levied on documents, and yeah, so it may vary between various countries and jurisdictions. So in some countries, right, a physical stamp will have to be attached or impressed upon the document. Like in Singapore, right, we don't have to do that. All we need to do is to log into the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore's website, and we fill in some details, and like sale and purchase of shares of private companies, right, just fill in some details, and then after that pay the relevant stamp duties, and then you get a stamp certificate. Okay, so a lot of people actually factor in the buying and selling portion, but they never factor the cost of stamp duties into their investment decision. So a lot of people come and tell me, say, yeah, I bought a property for example, a million Singapore dollars, and then after that I sold it off for a certain amount. So I made a certain amount of capital gain. But the point is, how much stamp duties do you pay? So what was your initial capital outlay? Yeah, so stamp duties, right? Because now with additional buyer stamp duty, the stamp duty is actually quite substantial. So you have to factor this into your investment decision. Whether you're buying a first property, second or third property, this is very important, and it's also important for people to know how to manage their investment portfolio. So there's this thing about decoupling, whereby husband and wife each hold one private property, so that the property count is one, so that they don't pay any additional buyer stamp duty. At the same time, if you sell within a certain number of years in certain countries, stamp duties may be levied on you. So like for Singapore, if you sell before 3 years, you have to pay seller stamp duty. The same for many countries across the world. So if you sell at an earlier time frame, you may be liable to pay seller stamp duties. Okay, so that's all for this video. I'll see you at the next video.